Sometimes you have to live on the edge and do something that most people will consider silly, stupid, or even downright detrimental. I'm in that mood today, and at the risk of alienating the entire watch community, I've decided I want to take a look at the Hublot Classic Fusion 42mm watch from a brand that is almost universally hated by watch enthusiasts. Hublot is hated. It's the brand that gets pounded on consistently by the watch community, and it can be hard to figure out to what extent this level of vitriol is justified. The Hublot Classic Fusion is an interesting case study in this regard. Before moving on, I just have to say that I've been totally overwhelmed by the support I've received for my channel. It blows me away every day, and I know I'm just a small fish, but your comments, likes, and subscriptions are positive reinforcement for me, this online Pavlov dog. So please like and subscribe if you continue to like my content. It's really appreciated. With that said, let's dive into the Hublot. Normally, I would prefer to gloss over technical aspects of a watch and move directly to the aesthetics. But with this specific watch and all the baggage it carries, there are aspects that need a bit of a deep dive to get a better understanding of the real value of this watch and why it's perceived the way it is. To start off with, we're dealing with a watch that costs just shy of $7,600. It's competing with the Omega Aquaterra and the Oyster Perpetual. That's heavy competition, and that's where you start to run into problems from the get-go. From my watch buying guide video, I spoke about what drives the price of a watch, and there are a number of things that stick out on the Hublot. First of all is the movement. The Hublot has a Sellita SW200 movement, whereas the Omega and Rolex have in-house movements. This doesn't necessarily mean that the Rolex and Omega movements are better by default, but the reality is that they are by any objective measure. The one's 42 hours, the other two are 60 or 70 hours of power reserve. Rolex and Omega are COSC certified for accuracy. Hublot is not. Looking at the finishing, I found a quote on Fratello watches that describes it well. The movement is simple and industrial. If that doesn't scream they've done nothing to it other than put on a custom rotor, I don't know what does. Also, I tend to agree. Yes, you can see there is finishing on the movement, but it is minimalistic at best. Apart from a custom rotor and some brushing, the Omega is visually far more attractively finished, and so is the Rolex. Also, there's the detail of taking a fairly small movement and putting it into a big case. The whole point of a movement with a display case is the proportionality relative to the case. Imagine looking in the back of the display case of a Ferrari and seeing an engine that only takes up 50% of the engine bay. That's what you've got with this movement. You would be disappointed with the Ferrari, wouldn't you? Is it a bad movement in the Hublot? No, it's one of the most widely used movements in the world, found in tons of good watches. But in this price range, people have come to expect not just a better movement, but also an in-house movement. In-house, as I've spoken about, is a marketing term with a whole lot of caveats, but part of the credibility of high-end watchmakers is based on their ability to design and build the engine themselves from the bottom. Omega and Rolex demonstrate that ability. Hublot, with this model, does not. Incidentally, you can get the SW200 movement in an Oris for less than $3,000 or in the Maurice Lacroix for about the same. Next is the case. It's titanium, where the Omega and Rolex are steel. Titanium typically commands a premium, but I think you have to compare it to the Pelagos 39 or the Oris ProPilot X. Both titanium. Both with in-house movements. One is a million miles better and the other one is comparable in quality at a lower price. So again, there's a challenge for the Hublot to overcome. Also, with other models, you get full steel or metal bracelets, where the Hublot gives you a rubber bracelet. It's a nice bracelet, but from a pure pricing and value perspective, that's actually a lower cost solution. I would actually expect to have a steel bracelet and the rubber as an add-on or as an extra. I could go on talking about the dial, etc., and the finishing, but the summary of the technical side is this. This is objectively an overpriced watch when comparing to the two direct competitors. Then we get to aesthetics. This is a pretty watch, and that's what I'm going to say about the aesthetics. It's far more unique compared to the Omega or the Rolex. The combination of a lateral directional brushing on the upper and the polished sides is appealing. There is genuine work that has gone into this, and I like it. The porthole style is its own, and the relatively simple dial altogether give this watch some real wearer versatility. The strap, even though it's rubber, will allow you to wear it with a suit, more so than I feel a full steel bracelet should. And at the same time, it has much more summer vibe with the rubber strap also than the Omega or the Rolex can deliver. The clasp is a little bit on the broad side, but overall this is a pretty watch, and at 42mm and with the curvature of the case, it wears very nicely. This, though, is where we get to another caveat, and it's this. This is the Royal Oak. See those screws? This is the Nautilus. See the porthole design? The Royal Oak and the Nautilus were both designed in the 1970s by a dude called Gerald Genter. Watch aficionados feel that the Hublot has taken a little bit too much inspiration from those two watches. There's nothing wrong with drawing inspiration from others. There's a reason why all station wagons look the same, but in this price range, people expect originality. The Maurice Lacroix is clearly inspired by the Genter models, but is in a far cheaper price bracket. So is the Bell & Ross. Hublot wants to play with Rolex and Omega, but they have made their own designs, where Hublot, many feel, are too inspired by someone else, and this is where you as a consumer have a choice. It's up to you to assign value to the work that went into the watch design. You can evaluate the watch on its aesthetics in isolation and conclude, this is a pretty watch. I think it's pretty. Or you can be influenced by the fact that this watch is inspired by others that came before and either not care, which is totally cool, or assign it a negative aesthetic value. If IKEA builds a chair that looks like a design classic, is that okay? Is it okay if they want you to pay the same as the design classic? Or is it only okay when they sell it at a lower cost? I don't think there's an objective right answer to this. Ultimately, everything is derivative of something else, but that's possibly a little bit too philosophical an approach to take. My point is this, it's up to the individual to decide. Finally, there's marketing. Hublot has been around since 1980, and for reasons around the way they place themselves in the market, their use of inferior movements, Hublot has a bad rep. They were all marketing, but competing in a space price-wise where the competitors had storytelling or even heritage credibility in addition to better technical characteristics. Recently, Hublot has been upping its game quite significantly in regards to in-house movements and truly creative, albeit divisive designs. They are really doing some interesting stuff that in many ways is cutting edge. But this model, their most popular model, is just an overpriced watch with an inferior movement. It's a pretty watch. It's a well-made watch. Would I buy it? No. To me, it looks too much like other watches. It reminds me of other watches that I would rather have. I know I can get better value in cheaper watches and get better quality in similarly priced watches. Also, you'll never get street cred for wearing a Hublot. Not yet anyway. But who cares? Wear whatever you want to wear. It's pretty, but buy it through a grey dealer. You'll get it below list price, and then you'll be getting into a range where the value becomes more aligned with the product. And then it's actually not such a bad deal. Those were my thoughts on the Hublot. Hopefully you left this video having a better understanding of the Classic Fusion, can make a better decision for yourself, but also have an understanding of why exactly Hublot gets the reactions that it does. No matter what, if you have thoughts, leave them in the comments. I love interacting with you guys. It's really fun. And thanks for sticking around. Hopefully you like and subscribe and come back another time if you're a new watcher. So see you around there. Thanks. Bye.